Well, I'm quite excited because basically now it's time to extend the layout. We finally got our new baseboards from Grainge and Hodder. We're going to open it up, have a look at it and start putting it together. Very nicely laser cut wood, well packed. Instructions, and these are the fastener strengtheners. And because these are very accurately laser cut, they go together extremely easily and very quickly. So when you start to glue this together, don't be shy about using lots and lots of glue. It's all going to dry on the underside anyway, nothing should really be shown on the top, so use as much as you can. I think on the older models of these they used to recommend you start pinning them together, but with this one it doesn't say that on the instructions at all. So I've just put loads of glue on it. I'll wait for the glue to dry for about an hour or so, then I'll put a second load of glue and then I'll start joining the ends together. Now the instructions absolutely don't say to do this, but I'm going to use this. What I do is I staple the bits very carefully to keep the wood in place while the glue dries, and if as long as the staples are flush you don't really need to remove them. So looking at the end of the staple gun there, staple comes out there, you line it up and hopefully don't make a mess of it. So the staples are in, as you can see. That's enough to hold the glue, and unless the staples are kind of protruding, which these ones are not, there's no need to remove them. Now we'll let this dry up, then we can finish the internal bracing. So for this I use 14mm staples. Sometimes they're not exactly flush, you have to hammer them in a little bit more. Doesn't really matter as long as it holds the wood. A couple of them have protruded, as you can see that one on the other side, that's fine. I'll push that one out and just redo that one, and then add more glue, let it set, and then you can do the cross bracings. So the legs on these layout boards, fairly inexpensive IKEA legs. They're very basic, they come with a metal plate that fits there. Obviously you can't put them straight onto the board as it's very thin, so I put 2 pieces of plywood or OSB board there in each corner, which is why I put the bracings next to each other. They should really be bracing nothing, bracing nothing, but for this it doesn't really matter. Grainge and Hodder do make their own leg pack, but I actually did order some a while ago when I ordered some other baseboards, and they just didn't come in time, so I had to improvise, and I've stuck with this ever since. So I'm going to start cutting up this OSB board, gluing it and screwing it to the corners of this wood, and then I'll be able to put the legs on. And here you see with the legs fitted, one being clamped. So very easy to do. You only have to worry about the thickness of the ply. Even the placement doesn't particularly matter as long as the table stands up, but it's the thickness of the ply matters, otherwise you'll get wobbly legs. But even these extremely cheap legs have a little bit of adjustment in them, so they're not terrible. They can slightly bend and warp at that end, but they're not bad for, like, I think they're £2.50 each. I was going to get the Grainge and Hodder leg set, and basically their leg supports, and I think they're £10 a pair. So that would be £10, that'd be £20. That doesn't actually include the wooden legs. So when I added it up, and the amount of legs that I have is quite substantial, it was a significant amount of money, plus the fact that I did order them and they didn't come in time. So this is a much cheaper way. I mean, these can get a bit wobbly, you can knock them and bend them, but they're very, very cheap and easy to replace. So this is the way I've decided to do it. And voila, here is the finished layout extension. It runs to there. I might need another small extension to there. I'll have to see if I can buy one or make one up, as there's a bit of a gap there. But it's exactly the right width that I need. I'll add some foam to the top so that you won't see that extruding bit of wood which is here. Or I might, depends how much foam I'll use. And then I'm going to start working out a plan for this, because I've got 4 tracks coming off this to deal with. And what I'd really like is almost like a very modern small town America type scene. And I'm thinking of how I'm going to create that. So I've put some paper down and some track down just to show what I'm thinking. So basically I might need another bridge to cross the 2 tracks over from there, which are already crossed over, because it gives more space in the middle. I've got these DPM kits, but what I really want is something far more modern. So modern fast food places, maybe something like a Lowe's or a CVS or a Walmart, something very modern. And then this very high level track at the end there, or at the side, that will eventually start to come down, and you won't really see too much of that. It'll be raised up on an embankment, and then yeah, just the space in the middle. It's maybe some crossovers here, and a siding here. Now the signalling system that I'm planning to get can handle the scissors crossover and a point, so there's no problem with that. And that's my thinking. So that's everything I will start to be thinking and planning about. I think I'm going to start to acquire some newish buildings. I'll look into 3D printing them, and we'll see where we get. So I'm not sure, but what I'm thinking for the new section of layout, which is quite narrow but fairly long, is I'm thinking a very relatively modern small town America scene with lots of modern buildings, rather than too many of the old, for example, the DPM type things, of which I have quite a lot. Maybe I'll save those for a city scene, I don't know. This is just an idea. So I've started to 3D print some more modern type buildings, the sort of stuff you would see fast food places like that. This is one I've modified. I've used the old Wolfers roof details on the top. They're very good, do recommend those. And here's one, I think it's A&W if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to try and print a few more of these places out. I did have one. Wolfers do make a couple in N-scale, but not many. They make the Dairy King, or Dairy Queen I should say, which looks a bit like that. And they make the Grill and Chill, Dairy Queen Grill and Chill, which I might try and get hold of if I can get one. But otherwise I'll have to 3D print the rest of these buildings and see what they come out like. I literally think this is the best part of layout planning. Once you've got the track down, or you want to know where the track goes, is you're planning out how it's going to look and how you're going to operate it. Okay, for the last part of this video, we're going to be looking at how we colour these rocks at the back here. So these rocks here and these rocks here. We're going to use different methods and see which one looks the best. Right, so in order not that I inadvertently ruin the rock castings that I've already made on the layout, which took me quite a bit of time, I'm going to start testing on these moulds I made with the old Woodland Scenics moulds, and then I'm going to try different methods of painting as I have in a previous video and see which looks the most pleasing. What I'm looking for is sort of half grey, half almost tan colour rock with stripes or strata in, and let's see how I can best achieve that. So the first thing I'm going to do here with sample number 1 is I'm going to try and black wash them, and then I will apply the brown. Right, that's the black wash applied. The idea is it brings out the relief in the cracks and crevices. Looks absolutely dreadful at this point, but then let's try this on another piece of rock. So we have two to compare, and then we can take it from there. Okay, so the first sample has been very lightly dry brushed in what I would say is like an elephant grey that I've mixed myself. That's fine, because if you get small variations in the grey, it just makes it look more natural. So that's the first one. As you can see, the black wash brings out the details, and the grey on top brings out the highlights, so it's pretty good. So the first two samples have been prepared the same way, first with the black wash, then dry brush with the elephant grey. The third one has just been washed with the black wash. Now we're going to start to try some different methods. Okay, so the first one, next stage, has now been just sprayed with a wash of burnt sienna and buff titanium. The second one has been dry brushed with the same two colours, burnt sienna and buff titanium, but on top of the grey. And the third one was actually not dry brushed in elephant grey anyway. It's just been washed in the buff titanium and burnt sienna. Okay, so we've waited a while. The first sample is relatively dark with brown bits. It does look like the granite you'd get in this country where I am, but for me it's too dark. The second piece is a lot better. Probably needs a bit more dry brushing, or somehow get more of a lighter colour on it. I'm not sure how yet. And the third piece, again, it's just too dark, and not as much detail as the first two. So I think this is the winner at the moment. I've got to try and work out now how I make this lighter. So here's the number one sample with the black wash, and then dry brushed with grey, and then dry brushed a little bit with a sort of orangey or very light rock colour. Number two, which I think is much better, it's very similar, but you've got more spray washes with the light colour as well, and you can see it forms patches of this sort of brown colour, which I think comes out a lot better. Let's see if I can hold that up to the light a bit more so you can see it. I think that's much more realistic. It's just patches of the colour as opposed to this where the colour is everywhere. Yeah, it's still pretty good though. And then sample 3, which is all done with washes and very little dry brushing, and it's not really that good. So I think method 2 is the clear winner, and I think that's the way I'm gonna do the rocks. And the final touch is you dry brush very lightly with some white or maybe off-white, and it absolutely makes the colours and the rocks pop out.